couple of off-the-book meetings.
Okay,
That the only reason we found out about it is because I go to the select board meetings, and that's how it was told. I just want to make a promise that if there are any off-the-book meetings, it gets told to us so that we know what happens at these meetings. And I'm not going to ask that of anyone who goes, not just you. So those off-the-book meetings were a problem for me.
okay, that is a problem for me.
Yeah, no,
As soon as we get rid of that.
that's why I stopped.
So can you describe what you mean by off the book?
Yeah, remember he went and met with all the other finance committee chairs? And that was off the book. That wasn't something that we were told about
Until after it happened.
Okay.
And then him and the select board chair went to a meeting with the school committee that was not posted to discuss, I can't remember right now what it was, but at least the select board chair did bring it up to her board. We were not told, and I had to bring it up at this board to get any information.
All right, so does anyone else have any comments till we vote and then we can,
It's better now. Thanks, Thaddeus.
I guess my 2 cents on that is, that, you know, as an individual, if you wanna go to a meeting, you can go to a meeting. I understand we should know about it, certainly right after it happens, but if we can know ahead of time, be better, but.
These weren't posted meetings.
Or at least shoot an email to the whole committee and say,
that's the
hey,
thing.
by the way, on such and such a day,
Right.
I'm going to X meeting.
Right.
well, depending on this vote, you're gonna help me with that, so. Cause I need,
But that's the thing. That's the only thing I would say is just because that was just, we didn't have a lot of say and pulling information was very difficult out of that information, so.
No, I don't disagree with that either, but, okay.
motion made on the floor, seconded, we had some discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, good.
Oh, I heard somebody.
That's,
Feedback
it's
again.
back. All right, do we have a motion on the floor for vice chairman?
I will make a motion that we appoint, or we ask and then appoint, Ted Purcell as the vice chair.
Second.
Is that acceptable to you before we
Yeah.
vote?
How do you feel about it?
Better than having been asked to be chair. I would be willing to be considered for that, yes.
Okay, do we have any other nominations? Do we have a discussion? Anyone need to discuss Ted? All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Clerk, I would like to make a motion that Lynn remain if she so desires. She did a good job. She followed up, knew what she, yeah, I thought it was great, but that's something she has to say yes to.
I'll do it.
Second.
That was quick, good.
He already asked her.
Any other, discussion about that? All those in favor of Lynn being the clerk?
Aye.
Okay, perfect. So I have some comments about just about this whole process and what was said just a second ago. That's a two-way street, so if I will definitely let everybody know, someone's gonna have to help me set it up in my Gmail that I can get the group by hitting the group button. That's not, it's just nothing, I know it's nothing, but it's something. And then, if somebody reaches out to anyone and I am not, if a member on this committee can go and ask the questions of anybody. But we kind of need to know so it's not a surprise, just the same way. Get in that little email and tell us. I have no problem with anybody do it, but sharing information will help. And if you hear something, say something type of thing. So that's good. We're all on the same page. And I think it's gonna be an interesting year and a difficult year, but we're gonna get through it. I think first off, we have a couple people in the room. We have our temporary, I think is the best way to say, acting interim town administrator, and could you introduce yourself, sir?
Yes, my name is David DeMonch, and I am the interim town administrator. I began at the beginning of June, and I'm contracted through the end of November. I'm hoping that we're gonna get an RFP out for a full-time permanent town administrator on Tuesday and begin the process of getting a new administrator. It'll take a good 4 or 5 months to do that, just to let people know.
You think to start it or get it completed?
Completed.
I hope it'll be done by then.
I would also, I'm gonna throw it out to the group, I would like a representative from the group, possibly myself, I'm gonna reach out to the select board and say, when you guys get to this final interview process, if it's okay, I would like to be involved, or someone from the finance committee should be involved. I don't think we all have to be involved, but I would represent us and let everybody know what's going on, and just to have some input, because we haven't had input into one of the positions in this town that are very important. And I would ask if they say no, they say no, but I'm gonna ask, if that's okay.
You can go to the meetings,
Right.
they're gonna be public meetings if they're final interviews,
Yeah,
so there's absolutely no reason why you can't be there, but I don't disagree with you if you wanna ask them to be.
okay. So, does anyone else have anything else on the reorganization or anything along those lines? So,
Yes, you're talking about the administrators thing that we just talked about?
yes,
Okay, so is that budgeted, is there money in the budget for that?
Or what?
To do a search, you're gonna do a regular RFP, right?
I'm gonna talk to Donna about that in terms of, if there are funds available to pay for that, yes. I know that specifically it wasn't budgeted because it wasn't expected.
Well, it wasn't budgeted because it wasn't expected, but it's also, when it was first said, it was compensation was gonna be slightly different and everything, and so that's kind of eaten up, and I'm not dinging you for that, it's just I
think there's a whole bunch of stuff that, is gonna be really tight this year.
Everything?
Everything, whole bunch of stuff, like the whole kit and caboodle.
Right, it's
Do we
gonna
have
be
any
tight.
idea what it costs for this? Is it 10, 15?
It's gonna be somewhere between 10 and 15 probably.
I'd even go on
That'll
the
be my
low
guess.
side looking at what
I
I do at
haven't done,
work.
I'm sorry,
I'm sorry, I didn't.
I haven't been part of this, well, it's been a year or so. It's generally around 15, and could be a little bit more.
Okay. And we're gonna use a search firm, correct?
We are using a search firm.
Well, you,
Anything else about that?
Yeah, I just would like to know ahead of time, before money is committed, it's not budgeted.
I don't think we have a choice at this point.
Why would you say that?
For a search firm, it's gonna cost. It could actually end up being a
Why
percentage of the
can't the
salary.
board select a person? Why can't, the way it's been done, I mean, I just,
So you want the board to put an ad out on Indeed and have them submit it that way?
not on
That
Indeed.
wouldn't be Indeed, it would be thugh the Mass Municipal Association.
MMA.
And there are.
I'm just saying, there could be other ways of doing it than saying we have to do a nationwide search and we gotta spend all this money, and I know everybody does it, I know it's out there all the time.
I think that we're gonna have to ask, at the next selectmen's meeting, and we'll have to bring this up and just, we have a, townsperson that's also a selectman, he can kind of relay the message that he's not representing the select board tonight, but at least he knows that, how are we paying for this? And I'm sure that he'll ask that question.
If I may,
Could you send a note?
This is actually on Monday's agenda.
Yes,
This
but,
Yeah, it's a whole
discussion.
discussion.
but can you send a note to them so that we have it in writing to them that we're wondering what the cost is it budgeted and all
We
those
won't
things.
know any of that until the proposals.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is at least it's on their radar to make sure they include us in, because if we go there and speak, it might not get an answer.
We won't
In
know
writing,
the-
it's a little bit easier to hold them to it, sorry.
We won't know the amount until if there's proposals, if these are sent out until there. But we should know ahead of time where this money would be summed up from, if there's supposedly money available. I mean, we spent months finding dollars and pennies trying to make sure there was money for stuff. And we put a lot of effort into not trying to use, when we end up using, after we keep getting a lecture each time somebody new comes in about not using free cash, then last year we used the most we've ever used that I can remember.
Yeah, we
Balanced the
kinda
budget.
cleaned it right out at the end.
Right. So I just think it's,
I'd like to know, I
Ahead of
agree with you,
time.
Tommy, we'd like to know where it's coming from. We don't wanna let that down, but, the selectmen are gonna.
That's a legitimate question.
Right,
And if there isn't a funding source, then it would probably be a finance committee reserve fund transfer.
right. And it's no different than what we say to anybody who comes to us. The sooner you let us know, the better it is, because we don't like to get the last minute.
Right.
And this year, I hate to say this, but this year, the reserve fund is going to be needed for, I perceive, probably a few more than just a few things.
Well, where we're sitting right now, it's gonna close in October if we don't.
Right,
So we have to figure that out.
Right.
They've kind of fired the warning shot. We talked them down off the ledge. If everybody didn't, let me just bring everybody up to speed. I went to a Board of Library Trustees meeting down here, and they were gonna close the library off on July 1st. We had a few selectmen, and we had a bunch of representatives from town, including myself, and we just asked that they delay it till as long as they thought feasible, and they all agreed somewhere around October 1st is what they can work, so we can work with them, and then we can have hopefully a plan on how we're gonna get there. The amount they're gonna need to get through is somewhere between 55 and 65,000 to do that. I don't know how that's gonna work. There has been some discussion amongst several boards and several department heads that money was taken from their budget, and if you weren't right on top of it, you didn't necessarily know where it was coming from. And that's what the Board of Library Trustees was trying to convey to us. They didn't realize that came from there. So that's the problem there.
at last Monday's select board meeting, Jen Ledger, the chair of the select board, brought it up that they're looking at unspent warrant articles for the library to see if they can bring that in to help defer some of the shortfall. But again, that's one-time funds, so.
Right.
Which takes
I
us
think
into
the
a deeper.
intent is gonna be to try to recapture any funds that, for example, in articles and things like that.
Right, to put it towards the operating expenses here to
Yeah.
keep it open, and I understand that. But again, that's one-time funds, so we're already in the hole.
Yeah, it's like using free cash.
Exactly, so we're already in a hole.
It's a systemic problem because
Yes.
what happens is if you use X amount of dollars every year for free cash,
Mm-hmm.
and then that 1 year that you don't have the free cash in the same amount,
Yep.
you're in trouble.
Mhm.
So you really need, if it's a one-time thing that you're counting on, like you're saying you're gonna use stabilization,
We're in,
that you'll never be able to replace the amount of money that you have in stabilization.
And we worked, this
Very
board has
hard to
worked
get
very
there.
hard to get the stabilization back up to where it needed to be.
we're in
not
that
a
boat
thing.
right now. I
Yes.
mean, and that boat's got a
That's
couple
not
little
an
pinholes in
intended
it.
use.
No.
No, exactly, it's not, I mean, but yeah, so that was what was discussed. I did mention to the select board that when they got the list of the unexpended warrant articles, that the finance committee would like that because we have asked for that in the past and have not received it.
Okay,
Because the unexpended articles, I know you've asked,
Yep.
And that does make a big difference.
All right.
Now, I just wanna add one more thing there. I mean, free cash, sometimes you can make the argument that some of the free cash each year is from a raise and appropriate because it's leftover budget items that were from raise. So a little bit of that
Most
is.
towns do
Right,
use
so
some
that's not,
portion.
all of it is one time, some of that is in there, but not the whole,
Yeah,
not the whole
yeah.
package.
Most towns do use some free cash to
Correct.
balance the budget.
Right,
Don has had,
And the other way is if you're,
Don has had 18 hours into the new budget season, so she should know exactly what's going on within a few minutes, right? So
So where are we gonna end with free cash this year?
let's let her breathe for a couple days and get everything squared away. But she's had 18 hours with the new budget year, so cycle. So, but I think it's in everybody's concern. There's a couple things. There's the library. The fire chief mentioned to me that his budget got cut in the same account that he's asking for tonight. Am I correct? And I'm sure that the police and the highway and everybody got nipped a little bit. And there was a crazy budget year, and some of them, I think some of the department heads knew exactly where it was, and others didn't. They just knew that it had gotten cut. And when asked, the library I didn't have a warm and fuzzy feeling that the library got the response that they needed to, and there was no fighting back. This is what it is, and here you are.
That's what was stated at Monday's select board meeting, that the town administrator told them where the cuts were being taken. Whereas in the past, it has always been, we need you to cut X dollars and you get to take it wherever
So-
you feel the most pain can be.
So, moving right along, because we got,
I think interject, so certainly there are cuts and it's difficult for every department. But if the cuts are not where they want it, we have the internal departmental transfers within the library. So if they feel they need more in one line item, we can do that. I can't obviously change the bottom line, but I can reiterate that to the library too. I just wanted to throw that out.
That
for you
was
guys
also
as well.
brought up,
Okay.
but the problem comes in where it's also now pretty much the only other place they have is to cut people.
And I think that's where they would have
Then that's what but now, there was
weren't
directives said by select board, and so, so
I was
that's the
just
reason
trying
why.
to help with.
Yep.
with-
no,
Thank you.
we
Thank you.
understand.
Appreciate it.
But that was brought up and.
And I'm not gonna be,
discussed.
I don't wanna say this the proper way, because I think the Board of Library Trustees is trying to make a statement, and I understand what they're trying to do. And that's why we went to the meeting and said, could you slow that down a little bit, so on July 1st, we're not looking for a place to meet. And they understood that. So I think that we can coax them along in the right direction and then try to find what they're looking for, hopefully. But there was definitely a shock and awe, if I want to use what they were going for, and it worked pretty well. So let's move on to the reserve fund transfers, because there's a couple people that came for that, and we can get through this. The first one I have is a request for $13,000 to be transferred from account 010-151-5200-00-000. And they were looking to switch over. And this is the legal one, guys. So with that, come on up to the table, big guy. So this is the legal one. And I think that anybody in town, I'm gonna say that anybody in town that's been following what's been going on, knows that there's been plenty of legal things going on, and I don't think it's over by any means. So this is some of them we're gonna have to keep an eye on. And I don't know what we appropriated for next year, but it's gonna be burned out pretty quick, so, in my eyes. I can look, or Donna can help me out with that, but
If I could make a clarification too, the two transfers you're doing tonight are on fiscal 2025, because we have until July 15th for that. I just want to clarify for all of you, I just want to make sure that we're
Yep.
all aware of that.
I'm sorry, I
This is-
didn't say that.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, June 8th, this was filed to us on June 18th, 2025, and because we had till July 15th, we asked Donna and she said it wouldn't be a problem. Does
I'm
anyone,
gonna ask the question that no one else wants to ask. What is the total of the last bill that we got that pushed you guys over the edge?
$10,600. I believe that dollar amount is in the explanation box. I think I broke down the full amount, and then we had, I think it was 3,000 left in the, 6,000 left in the appropriation, so there wasn't the full amount left to pay that entire bill. And then, within a couple of days of sending this to you guys, we got, an invoice for half of the month of June. And then we're still going to have another invoice for the second half of June. That amount I just estimated based on what they appropriate, or that they estimated for the first half of the month.
So that's over and above the 14,311 that you said the two June invoices were?
No, so the $13,000 would encompass that $10,000 bill. It accounts for the money that's remaining in the appropriation, plus the final two bills for the month of June, and it probably leaves a buffer of maybe $200-300 just in case that second half comes in higher than the first half. Because I know with certainty there will be Wachusett Road matters that will be submitted before June 30th to Town Council.
Was the select board aware of this shortfall?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I don't know if that's communicated to that. I'm just the lady that.
No, I'm only asking because I know they just sent stuff back to legal at their last meeting, so that's gonna jack it up. and
this
have, you know,
Wachusett Road thing isn't ending anytime soon, so.
I get it, but I mean, at a certain point, you can't spend money you don't have.
Well,
Well,
I'm
you
gonna
can't-
s-
You can't have that part of it be the thing that's hanging over your head, right? So you're not gonna get a positive result with the select board because we don't have.
Well, we're not gonna get a positive result in court if we don't fight this. It's,
Well,
it's,
that's right.
the other thing.
That's my point exactly, right?
The
You
counterpoint of this is
can't-
$500,000. If we lose this, it's $500,000.
Right.
That's the estimated cost. I'm
But it's
just,
gonna be more than that, but yeah, I'm with you, it'll be more than that.
Right, so it's well worth the argument.
and if it's more than $500,000, it's what it is. But so we gotta, I mean, we're in the
My only
whole-
thing is the more information we share with boards,
I don't think that
better.
they knew this has been very convoluted between them and a couple different boards, and it's hard, right?
yeah, but I think the more information we get out to more boards, the better off it is than going, what do you mean? What do you mean?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. What are you talking about now, $500,000?
If we have to build, if we have to fix that
If we have
road,
to bridge the road, fix the road, Tommy.
it'll be more than that, yeah.
The road, I guess that's in here somewhere.
Yeah, Wachusett Road.
I have a question. Do we always round up on these versus, I would think that we would be paying a bill that was due and we don't have money for. So if we round up to 13, so is it up to $13,000 and it might not be the whole thing?
Yes. Cause she took the best guess she could for the remainder.
And what
of June.
happens if it's not that much? Does it just sit
Falls into the
it
general
would-
fund.
there in
It would
that
be
line?
It really was my encouragement to Mika, because I didn't want everyone to have to meet again, and we do not, that bill is gonna come in probably after July 15th, right? So this is, town council is something that we have I don't wanna say no control, but I mean, it is something that is necessary and it's an unknown every year. It's something that you can't budget for because you cannot foresee the future as to what we would use town council for. So, the 13, if it closes in the reserve fund or it closes in the legal fee, it's still gonna close if it's not used. So, have a buffer to ensure that there's enough to pay the next invoice when we don't know what that is today. It was my encouragement.
So this is a question, cause I'm new. So if it is it implied up to a dollar amount? And then what it does, again, I guess I don't have an answer. Does it get spent and some of it stays in reserve? Or is it?
It'll automatically, whatever doesn't get spent goes to free cash.
Next year.
Yeah, the
The
reserve fund
reserve
does
goes
not.
every year, goes into free cash?
Whatever we don't spend goes into free cash.
Okay.
Yeah.
A reserve fund, you can't expend directly from a reserve fund, so you're transferring it, it's a budget transfer. You can, so that's why I'm saying that if it'll close in the legal or it will close in the reserve fund. But the transfer tonight the whole thing will come out of reserve fund because you can't expend, I was just trying to.
Yeah, but
I didn't
regardless,
understand.
if we only spend 12 of that, because Tamika finds an online coupon code.
We haven't done that, have we? I wasn't aware of what happened with reserve. I
She
thought it
finds
still
an
kinda
online
stayed
It's not,
there.
yeah, it's not like a
Coupon
warrant
code for that.
article.
We're gonna have to
It
get it
goes,
raised.
it's a budget item. Yeah.
Thank you.
So
The
look for
answer,
that coupon code.
the answer to that first question though is, the number that's presented here is whatever the department head, whoever is in charge of this account, is asking for. If
I
they get a bill that's $3 over that,
Then
there's no money there for it, so they gotta find it someplace else or it doesn't get paid.
it'll be put on the town meeting warrant as a prior year bill at that point.
Well, it could be, correct. Secondly, if the money is, I would assume the money's gonna be transferred to this. See, it doesn't say here, what's all, are these numbers for somebody's legal account? Whoever, I have to look
It's
up
the
whoever
town,
one
it's a town
fifty-one.
legal account.
Is that from the
I mean,
chart of
it's
accounts?
used to say the name of the account. But anyways, once it's in that account, you can encumber that money until you're sure all your bills are in, right? So I mean, it could stay there till who knows when.
Oh, no, it would only stay there if we don't
No.
receive the bill before.
If you anticipate additional bills, and you have money in that account, and you encumber the funds, then the money stays there until you pay the bills.
If she doesn't receive the bill before, July 31st, but.
Well, you can
we will.
encumber money longer than that.
I can, but in this particular case, we know we'll receive the one last bill through
Okay,
June
right.
30th.
All right, if you know what it is, then right.
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't know tonight, but we will know within a week or so.
We can
Right.
speed that up also.
Yeah, all right, do we have a motion on this one, guys?
Well, no, I have one more question.
Go for it.
So, Tamika, you said a minute ago about, you said something about 10,000. I'm confused on where the money, how much the total, I think what Karen asked earlier. Is it 13,000, you said covers a $10,000 bill, but there's others, but so is the $6,000 covering other bills or?
No, so, the initial bill that put us over was that $10,000 bill, for the month of May. And there was approximately $6,000 remaining in the legal fund. So a portion of what's left in the legal fund is going to pay a portion of that $10,000 bill. So I'm requesting the balance of that bill plus the next two bills to cover the month of June, cause they split it up into two bills for us for the month of June at our request. So we're gonna expend the $6,000 that's left in the account, and
Right.
then over and above that, the $13,000 is to cover the remainder of the bill. Is it bills?
So some of the 6,000 is gonna pay a bill and then whatever, let's just say it's $2,000. Then there'll be 4,000 left, so you'll have 17,000 to pay the last two bills.
No, I need $13,000 to pay the rest.
No, I know,
of the
but
bills.
if you have some left over in the account from paying the first one,
She could only pay $6,000 of the $10,000
Right.
bill, so she's in negative $4,000 already.
oh,
with
there's a
two bills
10,000,
remaining.
well, okay, that's what I was getting at. So there's a $10,000 bill already.
Yes.
Okay,
Correct, for the month of May.
okay.
Yep, and we did make our best effort to find another account from which we could do an interdepartmental transfer, and unfortunately, all of the funds have already been allocated to help other departments and line items to get through the rest of the year. And I did also mention in my email that, you know, every time I get a bill, I go through and I look where they're from, and if I can take it from another account, I do. For example, the DCR sewer matters come from the enterprise account, anything related to planning board comes from their revolving fund. And I do that consistently throughout the year, not just when we're down on funds. So that was our best effort to get what we could, and this is kind of our last resort to pay the bills.
And we didn't put any money in for tax taking to the,
So Donna can speak to that.
Tax taking is not out of this account, tax taking is out of the revolving tax that he has, or the purchase service account that he.
because you, it's on here that it was some of the matters, so that's why I was asking, because as I recall, so that's fine, that's all I needed to know. Because I'm like, wait a minute, I thought we put money aside, so thank you.
Yeah, it was one specific case
Okay.
that continually was
Okay,
invoices.
nope, that's fine,
Yeah.
thank
But
you.
I had that question too, because that's on here, and I said we
Yep,
got.
and that's why I asked, because
Right.
I'm like, wait a minute, I remember that, so.
So, that leads me to another question, Mr. Chairman. So overall, out of this legal account, how much do we spend in a year? Without me going back and looking at the actual budget number to figure out what it is? About, what's the total number?
Based on this, about 50, I would say. I think this was budgeted.
What is, I'm
at-
sorry,
I think this was budgeted at,
49.50.
was this budgeted at 35,000?
45,000.
oh, 45,000. And
Okay.
the numbers that you charge legal fees, or the legal fees that come in, and then you send those to other accounts, whether it be the planet, whatever, about how much is that per year that other departments' accounts pay for?
That one would take me a few minutes to determine that for you. Are you just trying to determine how much we pay KP Law,
I guesstimate, yeah.
basically? I have to get into the vendor, so give me a few minutes.
Well,
I can do it though.
I'm just curious what the total is.
So it's 45,000 from the regular budget, and then the planning board pays some of that too. So we're trying to get a total from KP Law, what we pay every year.
And the ZBA pays for some of that, there's a bunch of
Or
those
other- or
places,
other-
yeah.
Yeah, other boards.
45 is the general, and the other matters that are specific to departments add to that number.
Correct.
So it's safe to say a minimum of 58,000 this year with expending the full amount plus this amount, and then whatever Donna finds for over and above. I would say the majority of the other funds are paid by the planning board. There aren't too many other expenses that would fall under other departments or boards.
So during this fiscal year, we have paid KP Law $50,723.
So we're not over by that much.
That's also strange, because that would imply that there really wasn't many other legal matters beyond general legal matters.
Well, that's not including what we haven't paid, cause I can't process what we haven't paid yet, okay?
Right.
So,
Okay.
okay, so that's only what,
But still, it's
Has
more,
been
it's
paid.
definitely more than half that is the general instead of like the specific.
yeah, most definitely, I don't think that,
Okay.
that is a surprise, yes.
And that was how much, Donna?
50,724. But that's not including the unpaid bill.
Okay.
Correct, I cannot submit those invoices till we have money to pay
Yeah.
it.
Does anyone else have any more questions related to this matter? Can I get a motion from the floor?
I'd like to stick it to them, but, I'll make the motion that we approve this reserve fund transfer.
I'll second.
We have a motion made and seconded. I'm gonna speak to that. I don't think we can stick it to them. I understand what you're saying, but we can't. This matter is gonna cost us a lot of money either
But
way.
it's not just that matter. The thing is that, again, it comes down to the people in charge of running the town, the select board in this case, because I can't blame David, he wasn't here, need to be watching the reports that Donna keeps getting and showing us where we're spending. And maybe, I know before Austin left, he had a conversation with the select board about reining in spending. So they need to be paying attention to those lines, because then we might have seen it, they might have seen it and maybe would have told us ahead of time. Seth came to us and told us ahead of time.
All right.
At the
If-
rate that
as
we're
long as you
spending.
wanna say, yes, that we should maybe know this a little sooner,
That's the thing,
yes.
as you're spending it
This-
faster than what it should just be.
This snowball is rolling pretty big,
Right.
and unfortunately, we're all in, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah, I get it,
Right,
but
but-
again, when you look at those reports, it kind of shows that we were gonna be in trouble before.
But I think at some point, especially with legal, you can't defer, there's certain things you can't defer just because you're running out of money.
And I'm not
Has to
saying,
be spent.
I'm not saying that, but just like Seth, when
Just
he
as a-
started seeing it come, he's like, hold on a second, I'm thinking I'm gonna need a reserve. A heads up is always appreciated.
Right, but where does it say we can do that?
Where does it say we can?
You
do
said you spend, you really can't, you don't know, I don't disagree with what you said, but where does it say you can do that? Only one I know of you can do that with is snow and ice.
It's a,
No, where is it say in the state law that you can do that? Well, we don't really know how much we're gonna spend legal, but we'll spend it and then we'll come back and look for the money.
No, I guess that's not what I meant, I'm just saying with legal matters, I don't think you have, sometimes you don't have a
it'd
choice.
be nice to be
You
given a
have to
heads up,
spend
but I
it.
don't think that in this
I
case
don't
here, we
disagree with
can't.
that, but what Karen just said is correct. The account should be watched, and before you get to the point of saying, oh geez, we're gonna be over by $10,000, we're getting in that direction, and we got all these, we should get more money in that account right now so that we can spend it
Yeah, okay.
on those fees.
I'm gonna give the selectmen and everybody over there a little bit of a free pass. And the time that this happened, we lost a town administrator, we gained a temporary town administrator, we had a lot of stuff going on. We've been involved in more legal fights than ever. I agree that they need to keep a better watch of it, and hopefully they hear us. So we have a motion made and seconded on this. Do we have, I'd like to take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Perfect.
Darren, can I just make one quick comment just in reference to what Tommy said? I understand what Karen's saying about getting the heads up. I would just say that with what Tommy recommended, and Donna can correct me if I'm wrong, I wouldn't recommend that we made that transfer before the end of the fiscal year, because at the time we might think we needed X number of dollars. But then we're coming back to you a second and a third time because we actually ended up needing more money. So while I agree with giving a heads up, I would say it's probably not best to actually make the transaction until we're now at the end of the fiscal year.
Which is what Seth did. He just let us know in advance. Hey, guys, heads up.
And if I could, the April bill was $3,600. I don't think in April or May, early May, we knew that there was gonna be an issue there. I think to Darren's, that it started in the May and June invoice, which.
Yeah, but they know how much they're asking of the lawyers. You know that you're sending out this and that and this and that.
I think-
You have, and I mean, I know when I talk to the attorney, I'm like, oh, there's 20 minutes gone, there's a half an hour gone, so you know, you kind of pay attention. You know you're cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. It's just the way it is. It's just how it works.
All right,
That's why they go to school for so long.
so we've known about this one for a little bit. It is to transfer $5,000 transferred to account 010-5205-000000.
Which is Seth, that's what's that,
Public safety building purchase services.
purchase services, okay.
And Seth, do you wanna give, while we got this, do you wanna give any background, why you feel?
This is 100% driven by National Grid. Yes, we are in a locked-in rate at 13 cents. But historically, this account just usually either gets level funded or, 1-2% added each year. This year, we're probably, I just paid the last bill, and once Donna processed it, we needed this tonight in order to pay the final bill for June. So again, not only it's this year's problem, next year's problem is even worse because this account was cut by $10,000. So I'm just being honest, the electric bill during the summer there is $3,500 and it's almost $5,000 in the winter. So we pay almost $48,000 a year in electric just for that building.
Do you really need the lights?
Well, it's the most used building by the most full-time staff, 24 hours a day, and it is a humming place. It is, you know,
It's always something going on.
it's always busy, always people moving around that building.
Dispatch turns off the lights to really.
It is what it is. We do proportion some of these costs to indirect costs towards dispatch that are spread out amongst the 5 other
I
communities.
was just gonna ask you that.
So we do that, and when we did this for FY '26, we proportioned out what we originally requested for, but then the budget was cut. And so we are still regaining it from the other communities, but we didn't fund it. So again, we were cut $10,000 just in this one line item. And the other thing that's affecting this account is the water and sewer bill. You know, that used to be $500 a quarter, now it's $1,800 a quarter. So again, it is the most used building with staff 24 hours a day. So it's just something that just had to be added to the list for the fall. As everything else was, we'll deal with it in the fall. That was the term that was used to all department heads, was we'll deal with it in the fall. So.
Okay, can I have a motion on the floor,
I make
please?
a motion that we approve the transfer request as presented for this account.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded. Does anyone have any more discussion about this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, unanimous.
Thank you very much.
All right. Does anyone have any items that they would like to
Good night.
bring up
Good night.
tonight?
Good night.
See you, buddy.
We haven't done the minute.
Oh, let's do the minutes.
Sorry.
Oh, the minutes.
We have the minutes here from the May 22nd. I went through them. It looks pretty good to me. Do you have any, does anyone have any questions about this? Can I have a motion on the floor to accept the meeting minutes of May 22nd?
I make a motion to accept the minutes of May 22nd.
Do you have a second?
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded. Does anyone have any discussion? It's good that now we can have everybody a part of the finance committee. I see that note there. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
I have to abstain.
You weren't here. Understood. All right. Does anyone have anything else they'd like to discuss? We got a letter. I think everybody got a letter from a taxpayer asking us about the water, sewer, and how that all worked. I spent time last day and a half trying to look through this.
That's this.
That's
this
that,
one?
that's water and sewage. Donna would provide this to us. The question is, I don't know on here whose payroll or who people are, until we can get that.
Right, this, I mean, you don't have enough.
We don't have enough.
information here to determine which is going on, which direction.
Right.
Some of these you obviously know by some of the names on them, but the rest of it you don't know.
Right, so I think that we can make a request to Tamika to reach out to, water and sewer and see what's going on. And then the question also being, someone brought up to me, do we have any purview over this at all?
Absolutely,
Okay, we're,
Is it? Yeah.
okay,
absolutely.
that's what I said,
I
so I
think,
feel good.
well, one of the things I wanna bring, I don't wanna do it tonight, but again, it's in here. I requested a copy of the town bylaws that were approved at town meeting, that went to the town clerk and then went to the Attorney General, and we should get a copy of those that comes back, or they have come back to her, that says it's,
Approved by the Attorney General.
well, yeah, but the town clerk has recorded them or approved them, and the Attorney General reviewed them and approved them, and that we can work with it, because I have a set here that I keep referring to, and I know Tamika has a couple of times said, well, no, there's other things that I'm reading wrong, or I don't have, that, because that's some of the things that has been said in our last few meetings aren't what I'm reading in the bylaw that we have from February that was voted at the town meeting. But we need to go over that, because I think as the finance board, we need to look at the finance board's bylaw and read it and say, this is what we're gonna follow. Because some of the notes in that agenda, or the meeting notes that we just approved, which I highlighted quite a few things, but I don't wanna bring them up now, it's too much time. Anyways, I think we need to go over that stuff.
Going back to the original question, I think it would be good to be very specific in the ask for DPW to make sure we get the right actionable information. The breakdown between the responsibilities for the personnel. Because I think the issue there is one of like, are water and sewer people helping defray general DPW costs?
Correct.
Which is
Which is a fair ask.
It's a fair ask.
Absolutely.
And
But with this, Ludwig, I can't,
Or vice
and I'm not an accountant, so.
Or vice versa to that. I mean,
or the other way.
we've had these discussions, umpteen years ago, we had this same discussion, so.
And in a way, it's very difficult without time cards and all that kind of traceability to say like, okay, this is correct. So what is, how do we decide those things, and how do we track it? Because that goes into our water sewer rates, and that also determines how much time is available to do other things, right? If those guys are only hunting around for water infrastructure stuff all day, that might be what they need to do, but then that leaves no time to do anything else, and that's also not good.
So we can make a formal request to the town administrator to try to decipher this for a meeting that we decide in a couple of weeks, but I don't think we can do anything now.
No,
It's
no,
not the TA, it's
But I want-
really Nick George, because he's the one that handles the payroll. Doesn't he still certify the payroll?
Wouldn't we go through them?
Well, no, Nick and I share those responsibilities, but the certifying payroll is is a rate, not really
I understand that.
their department, so I don't think Nick could help.
So
I think
who
it would
knows
be,
who-
it would be
who
Chris is
says-
the superintendent, he's the one who.
he's the one that says, this week you're gonna spend half of her time or half of his time, and that's who tells you?
Yeah, and so I do enter payroll, and it seems there's not a huge variation in it, but there are some variations. It seems employees are designated for their roles, but he can speak to.
I think either the selectman or the town administrator has to go with the authority to the head of the highway department, and ask these questions. And what we wanna know is,
Always in the past, it was, you went, if you had payroll questions, you went to Becky, so that has changed. So that's
No,
why.
I don't think what you're asking for has changed at all. A certification is their rate. It's not,
I understand that, what I mean.
so that's all
but-
Becky or treasurer or I could
Okay,
provide.
in the past, when we wanted to know whose payroll went where, it was Becky that would give us the answer. Things change, I understand that, that's why I said it that way, so I just said, cause in the past, if you wanted to know, cause she would put it in, and that's who would you go and ask. So if that's changed, that's fine, I'm just
and
going
what
off.
specifically are we asking for then?
What we're asking for is,
Well, we gotta have these guys,
these things go from anywhere from 12,000 to 2,000. That's
the
a.
payroll.
Yeah,
So
for
are
payroll,
you on
that's
the water
for
and
just
sewer?
one,
So the water has had, they've had a few employees leave, so some of the decreases are from that. and they're advertising for the replacement of that. I unfortunately did not print that, I don't have it in front of me right now.
It's not, it's, the payroll, I think what you just said is true. You gotta ask the guy that's in charge of the department on that, how he handles his people. Because the payrolls, when somebody's got a job, they get paid X amount of dollars. When the payroll gets signed, that's what it's saying. They work this many hours and they're getting paid that much. That doesn't tell us,
It all rolls up.
did they
under DPW, right?
do
That's the
something here or
whole-
do something there? And the other part of it is that,
So they charge their
are there
time
other
in separate places.
expenses that are being overlapped or in part of it?
So,
Because
Vehicles.
the bottom line question is, are the things being charged to water and sewer, the things being done on the water and sewer system that the ratepayers are paying for? And are the other things being charged to the highway, the DPW, highway department, whatever you wanna use, that should be paid for the entire, the taxpayer or the town that's getting the use out of those things across the whole spectrum of the town?
because
And I think that's what the question from this person was, and that's the question I know that I've been asking right along for quite some, well, it goes back to Eddie Brooks.
6 years,
days.
20 years.
I think that the question came up in everybody's mind is that every year it seems that we're gonna move a couple of people over to DPW from water at budget time. And the next year we're gonna move some people back. So there's a lot of shifting of personnel, which brings to mind, like, why are you shifting that? If you need this many people, then you have this many people. Even if it's vacant, you're still budgeting for the payroll. And if you need this many people on DPW, then that's what it should be. There should be very little variable unless something big comes up and there's a water main break and we've got to bring in DPW to work on that. That's
Right, but again, going back a number of years, that's used to be tracked so that they knew
correct.
what value was for each thing so that it could be divided properly.
And I think we're wondering, is that really happening?
Correct.
So wouldn't we just talk to the head
Well,
superintendent?
we're
And
not,
just-
I don't have time to go talk to the head superintendent,
Well,
right?
can we ask him to attend the
No, it
meeting?
should
Is that
come to
possible?
a meeting. I mean, it should come to a meeting so we can
Right, you
talk
come
about
to a meeting or no one wants, should we go through the town administrator?
If it's not being tracked, then how are you gonna account for?
No, it is tracked,
Well, we
but
hope
how
it
is it
is.
tracked and what, right?
Well, what I'm hearing is that it's not tracked.
I think it's tracked. We're wondering if it's
It
fuzzy
is.
math.
So it has.
So is
the-
John,
How is it? How do we
so
know it
is
is?
John Smith, if he's working 40 hours a week, is he working
think he's
straight
allocating
40 hours a
hours
week on
to
sewer?
different
Or is he working
Well, he
40 hours
does.
a week DPW
He
or
does
20
allocate
here and
hours,
20
but
there?
is that where
That's
the
what we're
person
asking.
was working, or was he just getting his hours allocated?
Well,
there?
that's what we gotta talk to
Well,
the
that's what we're talking,
superintendent to.
that's what we're
And I
talking
think-
about.
And I think we want to make a very specific ask to get his
We
understanding
do
for how he
need to ask
does that.
specific questions.
I think that's
But
an
again,
email.
Darren, we've got to look in, the bylaw says what we can do in there, that's what we need to look at, and you use the bylaw that the town voted for us to operate under. You are exactly right, I mean, exactly what you said.
What daunted me about the request was that the request was for this information to be made available to that person prior to, I believe it's this Monday night, Cummings meeting where they are setting the water and sewer rates.
Well, that's true.
And I then decided that I needed to pick at this scab a little bit and found out that that person had already asked the select board and the DPW chief for the information and did not get it. Now, we asked and got this, which we are not able to interpret, so we're not gonna be able to get that person that information by Monday. I mean, we could give them this, but I don't know that
It
serves
serves,
a whole lot of purpose, but
Just
we can't do
background
that
a
by
little
next
bit
Monday,
is
you're
that
right.
each
We can't do
year, it seems in the near past, I don't know how far back, but the rates are going up 10 to 15% every single rate period. So people are we can't keep doing this.
I think
Are we
the-
getting what we're paying?
the-
Are we
well,
paying
the-
for what we're getting?
Well, the rates are going up because of the, you know, the whole situation with the water meters and trying to, you know.
And the
get-
requirements of DEP, I really
DEP.
don't think the rates are going up from wages. There's not a significant increase in wages, I'm sorry if I cut you off.
No, that's all
Well,
right.
the rate's going up too also. That goes back, if you remember, there was a letter that, I don't know if it was 2 or 3 or 4 years ago they came out, because the rates weren't set higher each year, they were low. They went up a little bit, but they didn't go up a lot. And the notes that came back from, I believe it was town council and from Weston and Sampson we use, that reviewed this, said you need to go up on your rates more so that you can build up more into your
Infrastructure,
reserve fund, or whatever we call it,
retained
reserve for
earning,
appropriations or
retained
whatever.
earning.
They said you should go up higher because you're not putting enough aside for large expenses, because that's why we went and had to combine 2 accounts so that we could pay the sewer bill, because we didn't have any money. Now, we also are finding out that they've been overcharging us too, and they won't give us any money back, but they reduced the rates a little bit, they won't give us any money back of what they overcharged us for the last who knows how many years.
So-
But that's what was said, and that's why the rates have progressed higher now over the last several periods. I can't tell you which ones, but
So I think then what I hear, if I'm hearing it correctly, is that it's, the driver is not necessarily the wages, the driver is other things, and if that's a part of this puzzle, then that needs to be brought back to this person that's asking the question.
So I think
It's
that's
not.
where maybe you could take a look at the expenses to see where the vendor pay, you know, what we're paying for vendors.
Right.
Obviously, yes, that report doesn't provide individual employees, but it shows the trend of where the payroll amounts are for water, sewer, and the different line items within there on a bi-weekly basis.
So it sounds to me like in the short term, it would be very difficult to get this individual what they wanted prior to the Monday meeting.
absolutely.
But that there is a bigger picture that needs to be kind of an agenda item on some future meetings of ours where we are making sure of what we were just discussing, is it being taken care of? I seem to remember Joe Buckley's last year or two here, he did a fair amount to try and untangle some of this. I don't know if it's been tangled back up or there's just still loose ends that need to continue to be untangled, but would seem that we need to do some homework
But like
going
Karen
forward.
said earlier, during that period of time, you just mentioned Mr. Buckley who was here, there were several questions asked, we never got the answers that we asked for.
But when they're setting the water and sewer rates, that's based off of next year's budget, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it doesn't have anything to do with what they've already spent. It has to do more with what's been
Well,
budgeted
this
for next year.
probably guides them, right?
But what is being proposed for the rate, is not an increase, the water rates will cover this year, the operating budget. What's being asked is because there's a need to replace the meters, so it's the increase is now not gonna be any, the request, I should say, cause I don't know where the selectmen will vote, but the request is nowhere near what was requested last year. It's a minimal increase to cover, the meter replacements that is necessary and a requirement,
So,
Basically, they're looking at replacing 450 meters each year. And the total cost, $292, totaling $176,400 a year over the next 4 years. That's the net cost of replacing the meters.
So what's the total revenue for them from?
I'd have to do it.
the total revenue of the water and sewer. It has to equal the budget, it has to be an equal budget, that the estimates have to be, so, obviously their estimates.
Figure out, is 176,000 2% of the revenue of last year, for
Oh, the
example?
Well, don't we have an income sheet here or something we just got?
Been here 2 weeks, I'm
Right.
basically just getting up to speed, I don't have kind of handle on.
Water and sewer is not on there. Because it's an enterprise account.
I get 3,166,305.
Yeah, that's.
Well,
Is that
Not where
right?
he's looking, not where he's looking, it's not on there.
that may not be on, that's not on this sheet because this is revenues for the tax levy.
Yeah, that's just the tax
So this
levy.
wouldn't be the water,
That's
see, that's
correct.
another
So-
thing, so we should look at that too, water and sewer, that question, we should look at and find, we should get a sheet like this that tells us what's coming into water and sewer.
I know we asked
I know,
last
right.
year during the budget, and we
Right.
were told.
So I would like to entangle it like top down, right?
I get it.
So
Well, it should be.
what comes in, what goes out, right? And if labor is 10% of what goes out, then like we're hunting for, it's just not worth it. But
Right.
then if you're asking for, hey, it's only a 5% increase, but that number we just heard represents 2% of their revenue, hold on,
Right.
right? Now I've got questions, right? So that's why I think this is the communication that maybe has been missing, and we're watching everything now. So you gotta communicate. If you want X number of dollars for your building operations, you gotta let
So I would
people know and
propose that
communicate those
in a
things.
couple weeks from now, since we can't really do anything to affect this, in a couple weeks from now, we have a meeting and we all come back with things that we'd like to request of the water and sewer gentleman and ask him 2 weeks out. We ask him, we send our requests via whatever process we have to do it, and then we ask him for, is 2 weeks enough time or a month from that? I think it's fair and reasonable to do that. I don't know if there's anything we can do tonight, but I think we're on to the right track. I appreciate everybody bringing this up, but we have to, as far as Jean goes, we can't affect any change for her this year, and her request, but at least we can try to have a positive result for next year. We'll add this to the pile of stuff we're gonna try to straighten through.
So Donna, on a monthly basis, when you send us the budget to actual report, can you include the water and sewer enterprise?
It's always been on there.
It's always been on there,
Always been
okay.
on there.
How about the other accounts, like recreation and those?
Well, recreation is not a budgeted line item, so it cannot be part of that.
Could, when you're sending out those, would you send us all of the things that come, if we're gonna be looking at this, we should look at all of the accounts.
Question. The bylaws, Tamika, that are online, are those from like April something, I think, of 2024? Are those the ones, we're not gonna get anything different than that? So if I look at that, I'm looking at the best. that we can
Tamika
do.
sent that to us in an email.
So I guess,
I believe they said that was June 20th of 2024, and it was.
June, yes.
Those ones on the
yes,
website are the
yes.
ones that were approved by the Attorney General following last February's special town meeting. And it's also on the drive, the SharePoint.
If I might suggest to maybe, because I have questions of Donna too, and I'm wondering if instead of piecemeal, to what Tommy said, let's all look at those bylaws. If you need a copy of the bylaws, Tamika, I'm sure could print them for us. She's offered to that. Other than that, look online. And I've started doing that and saying, what is the finance committee?
Purview.
Where do we fit into the bylaws? And find all of those pieces, to Tommy's point, and figure out how do we make sure that people are accountable to us, but we know what they're accountable for. And I think, part of it is the big piece that we're missing in budget. We always get how much we're gonna spend, but where the money comes from is maybe not where is enough drill down for us to be able to do something with.
I'm in agreement, because I think the top line budgets that we get are very sparse. And so this is great, thank you for sending this. I get the same emails from the DLS. But it'd be nice to say, okay, where are we with where were we, what did we say we were gonna get, and oh crap, now we're lower, so now where are we gonna hit problems? And,
This cherry sheet was for the Wachusett, the one for municipal,
yeah, it's,
way lower
yeah, I know, I
coming
looked
in
at
for
both.
next year.
Right, and that was the thing, so what did we say was gonna come in?
So that's on the forecast,
It is, but it's significantly less.
But that's on the forecast. The forecast was last done in April.
No.
The forecast is the forecast. We're looking at, this is fiscal year 2026, which didn't that start today?
no, I was just saying the revenue for the, right, so obviously at town meeting, we used the most conservative amount for the cherry sheet, and it has, this year has fluctuated, I think more than typical, and the ones that came in today is a little lower than, I don't think it was significant though. I don't, well, I just don't know that I would use the word significant, that it yeah, I lost the internet there for a while too.
Yeah, we lost everything there for a minute.
But I'm sorry, did I interrupt? I didn't.
No, you're fine.
you're fine.
I think what we're looking at is almost $100,000, and in our budget, that's a lot of money.
No, I don't think the cherry sheet changed so are you, I'm, from what we estimated for the budget, and now maybe we're not talking the same apples to apples here, but if you're looking at that,
The top line of the
I'm looking at what we
budget.
actually used,
Right.
what we used in our estimated budget to what this number came in today is
Could you send us that? Because I don't know that any one of us has a clear picture of what was used for top-line budget revenue. Because I think it changed,
That is on the that didn't change, on the 26 line item, the 26
For the
column,
forecast?
for the
Is what-
forecast,
is what
is
we
the
used.
revenue, what we went to town with.
Okay.
Yes, and
Okay.
so, the cherry sheet that we used, sorry, I'm having trouble moving around, my computer froze there for a moment.
Well, you just lost internet, right?
Yes, it did come back though.
So,
Carol, if you're looking at prior years and stuff, that I that's not what I was looking at, so
Okay.
I think we weren't just talking the exact same.
so how's 2 weeks from tonight, guys? I know Tommy's gonna be out of town. How's everybody else?
Do we want to do Tuesdays or do we want to do Thursdays like the groups usually met?
It does not,
To me.
whatever the group
Thursday's
decides.
better for me.
Thursdays are better. Okay, what's 2 weeks in a Thursday, somebody?
Looks like the
17th.
17th, I believe. That is correct.
Does that seem like a reasonable date for everybody? So, I'll set a meeting for that date. And then agenda items. One would be, let's think of all the things we wanna say. We wanna try to get a handle on water and sewer and come up with some questions for the head of water and sewer and the DPW to try to, we wanna hone that in, correct?
Yeah, we wanna have a very detailed ask of the
Right.
superintendent.
In 2 weeks. We'd like to have everybody get a copy of the bylaws in 2 weeks. That would be agenda item 2, or maybe 1 would be the bylaws, so we can review, so that everybody in the room has a pretty good impression of what our roles and responsibilities are. Karen, what do you want? You want this,
That might take too long. I don't ask that.
you want this broken out in a
No,
way?
no, I'm fine, as long as she says that's what we use, and I can go through and see it. It looks like unrestricted aid in 2026 was supposed to be 1283, and so if that's right, because net state aid is what I'm supposed to be looking to match this, right?
So for what the numbers we use, the estimate is 1.337, and then you wanna subtract the offsets of the public, libraries of 27,723.
On here,
Okay, yeah.
where am I looking to match this?
Sorry, I was on the DOR one.
I'm trying to figure out where all these come from because we never
Right here,
seem to
right
make
here.
sense.
Right here.
So 1283 and we're getting 1337.
No, we're not getting that. That is not how you can calculate it. That it includes the library grant that is on Cherry's sheet, so you need to reduce that. Did you get so you didn't get the estimated charges here, included here. The second page here, so what, the number, just for
If you
in the
if you would
forecast-
send us a note
in the
to let us know how we back into these numbers, that would be very helpful because, I guess,
So
you know.
in the forecast, we used 1,283,087.
Mm-hmm.
The current number for today is 1,272,446.
And is that on this sheet?
No, you're missing one page of that sheet.
I didn't print out.
It's missing the offsets, cause it's estimated offsets here. So, if we go to,
So we take net state, and then we take the total estimated, less library,
and less
less what?
you don't have it there.
It doesn't have to be here,
It's
I have
called
it
the
at home.
assessments, yep.
That's the
The
assessments.
estimated, and that's about 37,000, I don't have the exact amount.
And that's how we tie out to that number. Okay,
Yes.
that's fine. I can
Yes.
try to do that and
Yeah.
see where we're coming.
And so if this minus this on that call on the state senate totaled the 1,283.
Okay,
Today's number totaled the I moved on already from it.
No, that's
Should we
fine.
be concerned that it's 1272 and not 1283?
So it did decrease a little, unfortunately. It is rare to decrease at this point. So the numbers that were used for town meeting were where we were. Unfortunately, the state doesn't set the budget as quickly as they tell us we have to. So their estimates when we go to town
as I
meetings.
say, not as I do.
All right, is there, moving along, is there anything else that anybody would like to talk about? We have free time in a meeting, so, you know, after we go through our agenda items, we'll.
At our next meeting, I mean,
Yes.
certainly I would like to talk about, what is our budget process gonna be? There were a couple of questions that I had fired off to you in an email at one point, that you thought might be answerable by then, just thinking of, we got a special town meeting coming up. Are we gonna be looking at doing much with free cash at that meeting as we have in some years, but opted not to last year? Some of those types of things,
Yep,
but.
and it may be some sort of a basic budget forecast that we've been talking about, me and you and everybody.
Yeah, and.
Like, where do we think we're gonna be next year if we take rough?
You really won't know that until the books are closed and free cash. You're months away from making that kind of decisions
That's no
about what you think
I
we're
have
gonna
this
have.
report.
Yeah,
Yes, of course, so
Are
that's
you,
fine.
well,
That's
are
what I
we
need to
months
do.
away from knowing
That
where
isn't
we
even
think?
final, 'cause governor hasn't
You
signed
can
it.
estimate.
No,
At least now we'll know.
right, but is it
You
the
know,
budget
but
items?
The problem with estimating is that once you do that and the number's out there, everybody makes an assumption that's the correct number. And if it comes in
You're
less,
estimating anyway.
what's that?
You're estimating anyway.
And if we don't wanna use free cash to budget,
I don't think
I
you
don't
should
see
be
that
using
that's
free cash for
plays into this.
expenses at this
We
point.
know if we can just put our finger on expenditures, and I think we can. We're not hiring 80 people, we're not,
The biggest thing is trying to get the forecast from what is 60 some odd % of our budget, which is the schools.
but
And
you
that is
have-
being asked. That is being asked for the
You
forecast.
have a pretty good idea also from those folks.
We have not seen a forecast. We're asking to see one,
Right, but
which would be
I
helpful.
think they kinda told us where they were gonna be, they thought they were gonna be,
Right, but we're asking for a forecast from them so that we have something from them, because they said they thought.
It would be
but-
around 3% again.
Well, the thing is we're trying to look for, it'll be about 3%, but we've increased this. So I know Alex asked at last select board meeting that we should be reaching out to Wachusett to ask for an updated forecast so that we have better numbers to work with.
My whole point is, we should absolutely ask, right? They
Yeah.
may know of some things that
Right.
we don't know about
Right.
that will move the needle significantly. But in the absence of that, we've got historical data reasonably.
Yep.
Other than the big items, we know that it might be around 3%, give or take a little bit. Would you concur?
Right, and so that means kind of know the cost
Where it would be.
situation pretty well.
Do they have any large-scale capital projects that they're gonna include as part of their budget?
It's coming, there's one coming. There's one in the woods, or what do they call it? There's one in the,
Trees?
there's one in somewhere, that school over here they're talking about it. Every once in a while, they raise their head about that. I don't know if it's this year, but it's coming. Hopefully not. All right, so I guess, David, we can ask you if you can do your best to come in 2 weeks. Come back with if you're available on a Thursday night, give us your,
Thursday nights are tough for me only because I work from home on Thursday, so I'm
Okay.
gonna drive all the way up here just to attend the meeting.
Okay.
Or I could just swap a Wednesday off for Thursday, you know,
What-
I'll make it work,
You
let's
could
put it that
zoom
way.
in.
yeah, you can also zoom in if
Yeah,
need be,
Zoom.
or you could send us some email with your, what we need or what we're asking. Would you?
Define-
I think
you
the
need
ov-
to define what you're asking for.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I guess where we're going with this, and we'll come back with that on our next meeting, but I think what we're trying to do is go into this year knowing that our best, I hate to say this, guess for this year is we're gonna be X. Now, I've heard numbers thrown around that we're 3 million upside down looking at it. Are we really? I don't know.
See, that's the problem with the numbers,
That's the
you throw a
first,
number
but
out
see,
there.
you want that first digit. If you could do that first digit plus or minus 1, then you're already ahead of the game. And to me, we get lost in like worrying about the second digit, which is very important, right? Like we care about that money,
Yep.
but like if we know that first digit in the order of magnitude, like that really lets everything
And I
else.
think that if we plan through what our requests are at the next meeting, I think we can get that first digit
Exactly.
and get close.
Right.
And then,
That's it. And I would encourage you to not have a lot of numbers in your estimates because they're just.
Well, the other part of this is they have to understand that I only work 22 hours a week. Okay, and there are other things in town that are going on that require my time also. So I really can't dedicate X amount of time, like a huge block of time, to
Town has
It
to.
all depends on the complexity of the questions that you're asking.
Right, so if we get too detailed, then it loses the value on both ends. Hard for you to complete and maybe questionable for.
Yeah, I just don't want to get overextended either. Trying to do, the board's work and
well, I'm going to be very honest with you, and I'm going to be very frank. If we go into it like we did last year, and we wait as late as we did last year, and the order of magnitude has got a 3 on the front of it, we are going to be in trouble.
Education is the only way this is going to work.
If it works
I
at all.
agree with that.
So
because I
you've got to
think you're gonna
start
have an over-
education now. You can't wait until March,
I think what we
because you
did,
won't be able to sell it.
we at the annual town meeting, we were able to let everybody know where we were going as a preliminary thing. I think from that night to already a month and a half later, we're $1 million out of whack already, more than we thought we were. So there's that 3 number. It was 2, now it's 3, and I don't know where it's gonna end up. So that's all I'm trying to do is get I think that he.
But I'm not so sure you have to do this. I think the finance director and the town treasurer collector, thank you. I'm like, why did that, Nick,
We could do it as.
could do it because you helped do all of this anyway.
But if it's a forecast that you're looking for, you have that. Nothing is gonna change in any of those figures in the near future. I cannot provide to you actual revenue for fiscal '25 until the end of August. There's 60-day accruals.
Sure, yeah.
So,
No, we get
Right?
that.
so I can say that I'm pleased with our revenue. I have it through May 31st. And we have something that is positive here, which we don't have a lot of positive.
Right.
The revenues are coming in that they're good. I don't have anything negative to report. New growth is a complete estimate when we go to town meeting, and it's a very conservative estimate. But we won't know the new growth numbers and from the assessor until the fall. That's the calendar of this process. There is nothing in that forecast that can change before December. We know,
Yeah, we get free cash from.
Yeah, but here's the thing. We know that we have, all right, so it's not certified, it's not definite. Our new growth was more than 250, correct?
correct.
Okay, so at least we could do, okay, so maybe it's 253,000, but at least we could change that to 253 to be conservative.
We're not gonna know that until probably November 1st.
But see, that's
So I
where-
can't provide this to you in 2 weeks.
Oh, no, we're not.
Nothing in that forecast change for 4 months.
Okay,
And I think that's fine. You're still gonna get a decent lead digit out of that.
That doesn't mean that we can't start working. I'm not discouraging that we work on 27, Karen. I'm just saying, there's nothing I can provide to you, me, Nick, or the town administrator on that forecast that can change right now. Because everything is estimates, and we're still at estimates today and will be July 18th.
when will you have all the numbers finalized?
August 3rd.
Not necessarily certified by the state, but August 31st?
Yes.
Okay, so then August 31st, we could put in some more detailed information on
Some
there.
detail.
And they're not certified by the state, and I understand that, but at least we have somewhere to go, because we have to move something here, because we're always very conservative, and I am an accountant, and I believe in being conservative. But we need to be more, to get education, we have to put more real numbers at the top line. Because we can't keep saying, oh, well, we came in higher every year, because you're hurting the taxpayers. We all are getting hurt, our taxpayers are all getting hurt, whether it be the tax bill, the water and sewer bills, whatever. And the thing is I think it's just always best to be conservative but more realistic, because I think,
Well, let's see what happens August
Right,
31st.
exactly, that's
If
what I'm
we're way
saying.
out of whack, we'll reel it in.
Right,
Or
that's
do
what
our
I'm
better,
saying.
or
Right.
request to reel it in a little bit.
Right. Just because, I mean, do I think we're gonna stay at 250 for the next 4 years? No, I don't think so.
I agree with you. I think that 250 Austin chose because he was concerned that being so tight.
Yep.
If he chose 500 and it came in at 300,
Yep.
we would have a huge problem.
And we understand that, and all I'm saying is
Let's see what
as we
happens
get
in,
further on, you just change those numbers to reflect more of where we're at actually.
But yeah, I don't think I'm gonna have any of those numbers before. Revenue, yeah, but I agree with you that new growth will probably be better than 250.
Yep.
But until that's certified, which is about November 1st, that number is not gonna change.
But for forecast, we can go with an uncertified number.
I don't think the assessors can't predict, they usually can't provide a number to much before the certification.
But Austin chose 250 when the actual was more, correct, last time? So all I'm saying is that he was conservative to make sure we didn't have a problem. All I'm saying is that if it's $253,000 this year, we put 253 there.
Karen, all I'm saying is we're not gonna have that number long. We'll not have any number for new growth. I'm saying November 1st. Maybe it'll be October 15th or October 1st. But I'm saying November 1st so that I don't disappoint.
Okay.
Okay,
I just wanna say, that's why I was suggested a couple of meetings ago, a couple of times, that we start right after the 1st of September and start on procedural things or informational things for a few meetings, and then by that time it'll be October, early November, and we might start seeing some numbers that you can work on, but
do we want
we've never started.
to go? So,
We've never
I think
sta-
this issue with, I think there's some things we should deal with right away.
There's so many procedural things we should not change 2 weeks from.
Right, 2 weeks from today for that, and then think about further out on the rest. Can I have a motion to adjourn? You need me to carry your bags, Tommy, for the next 2 months while you're out there traveling?
Yeah.
Motion,
To adjourn.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
It's a start, right? We're gonna start.
We've adjourned.
We're gonna start, that's all I said, we're gonna start. And thank you to the new members for adding